So we're Gen X, Y, and Z. From ZenGig, we're talking about our this is a new series that we have where we are talking about what these three generations need to do to get along in the workplace. Actually, Peter and I were talking earlier. We think we need a boomer on, and so if there's any boomers out there who want to be part of the show as a guest, we'd love to have you. But today we're talking about social media. It came up on our last recording last week. We started talking about LinkedIn and how LinkedIn can be used at work. And so let's just start from a generational standpoint and talk about these channels and these platforms and how they should be used for business or personal or both. So what do you think about LinkedIn? Because I don't know whose generation it is who's decided to start posting cat videos and that sort of thing on LinkedIn, but that's been a change. So it has to be. I think it's Gen Z.
I think that's like I think it's less than a generation. It's more just people like attention seeking on there. It's turning it into Facebook and posting frankly like lowest common denominator, like just clickbait type videos, which is not what I view LinkedIn as being. LinkedIn is supposed to be a professional network, quote unquote. I think it's always been for me, and I guess I can't divorce like my work from like that. That's somewhere where you had said on our last one, it's kind of just a professional resume that's interactive. People can kind of talk to you. You share work related type things. It's not for generally your everyday personal life outside of work, really. That's how I view it, at least.
I think I agree. So I mean, even in school, they taught us like, okay, you're going to make a LinkedIn profile, and this is basically going to be like your resume. Like I said last, podcast, I got a HubSpot certification, and that shows on my profile. So it's literally, it shows your skills, and it shows like if you speak any languages. I think you shouldn't be posting cat videos on there. That makes no sense. And if you want to post cat videos, then maybe you do it on Instagram or something more personal. But I think LinkedIn, definitely business. And maybe, I feel like you said Gen Z might be the ones to be hopping on that train, posting the cat videos. But I think it's millennials, because we haven't been in the workforce long enough to be really...
You're not even on LinkedIn?
No, I mean,
that's true.
Gen Zs
You're
are still
right.
in college, so they're learning about LinkedIn. So it might be millennials, Peter.
I don't think it's millennial. I think it's the older generations that are posting things on there, because it's like the same thing as you see the moms posting just like chain emails on Facebook and like and share type of stuff.
Oh man, I still get I think the only person, and I know he's going to listen to this because he listens to all our stuff, but my dad is the only one who still sends joke emails. I don't think
my dad does too.
Still does. Forwards joke emails.
I'll get like forward funny joke.
Well, every time I see one of those posts on LinkedIn that is cat video equivalent, I guess we'll just put them all in that category now. It always starts with, I know people don't think that's what this site is for, but
and then it's got a million likes on it.
Well, it's always like, but I want to do my thing, right? I know, generally people don't think it's a good idea, and I'm like, why? Why do you feel compelled to do that on this site where it is a business site? I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I mean, LinkedIn is effectively a glorified job board, right? It's a place to post your resume and connect with other people with similar business interests. I don't think it should be a place where you're looking to make friends outside of work.
Well, what's weird is and I guess since we've probably 2019 to now, since we with Four Corner and with ZenGigs have looked more into the just digital presence. I'll put that under the whole umbrella. Now, I guess I've become more cynical in that I'm like, I see people on there with like doing stuff like that. I'm like, they're just trying to farm reactions. Like they're like, it's like a million likes, a million comments, and half of them are saying what we're saying. They're like, this is dumb. You shouldn't be doing this on there. But people are liking and subscribing and commenting, and then that's getting more people on there. And we've had former employees and stuff who are LinkedIn masters and have like tens of thousands of comments on just every single random thing, and it's all I look at it all and I'm just like, this is so manufactured. It's not just some random guy's like, hey, here's a cool video. It's a bunch of people that are, they've got automated things that are posting, and so I look at it through a lens, I guess.
And trying to sell their course on how to use LinkedIn and
Yeah,
how to
exactly.
get followers
Yeah.
on LinkedIn.
It's not even
Yeah.
like the cat video is even work related. You can make it work like related. Sometimes I'll post memes on TikTok for like our Zengig page and make like funny stuff work related. And if people want to post cat videos on LinkedIn, then maybe they should, put a caption at the top that says like me at work, or my coworker is like, I don't know. What
There
do
you go.
Yeah, I mean, if you can relate it back, and I have seen some really good people who post kind of like out of the box stuff that I think is kind of interesting, and they'll relate it back to work, and they'll relate it back to it's a really like heartfelt thing that they've written. And I've seen some like former employees also who will post things on there that generally wouldn't be on there, and they relate their personal life to something they're doing, or an opening at a company, because obviously we know a lot of recruiters. I think that's fine. It's more just, I guess it's the fake ones that bother me, and I can clearly see them.
Yeah.
Well, all right, let's flip it though. What about Facebook, which is not a business site? I don't think anyone thinks that. I mean, Facebook would think they're a business site because they want the ads to be posted on there. But people who post incessantly business stuff on Facebook, what do you guys think about that? I mean, I think my generation is who uses Facebook the most. Yeah, millennials are really, I mean, I feel like almost Gen Z is starting to use it more to some degree, but I just say millennials generally use Facebook.
Facebook went away for me, at least. It was like a college thing when it was coming up, and then it became too many people using it, and so that's like the hipster thing for millennials to be like, everybody's on it. And it was because it's your parents and stuff on. I'm like, I don't want to be on there, like see like my relatives that are on there that are posting stuff all the time, and people post too much stuff about that. I don't want to see like your work stuff constantly on there. Every once in a while is fine, and that kind of goes for everything. People posting the same stuff over and over and over.
Well, Facebook is the one place other than your wedding or your funeral, and you won't get to enjoy air quotes on that. That's at your funeral, where people from every aspect of your life converge. So people who you go to high school with, you grew up with, you're like you said, your parents and their friends and neighbors and people from work, and it's an odd place for everyone to gather. But it's all personal, and to me, I mean, I guess, sure, sharing what's going on in your professional life is part of your personal life. But what drives me crazy are people who just constantly post their business stuff on there. Like, come on, man.
I guess I don't see too much of that. At least on mine, I don't see too many people posting business stuff on their Facebook. I do see some of it, but it's more, at least the people I am connected to and my friends and so on, they do keep it more to LinkedIn, I would say. So
I feel like it's okay for it to be both business and personal, because you have to think about it too. Like, there's pages that you can join and communities, and it's kind of like networking in a way, like LinkedIn. So I don't know. I feel like maybe you don't post as much on your personal, but if you want to post like business related content, join a specific page or specific like community where other people are posting that same stuff.
There you go. Okay. So what about then where it crosses a line with employees and employers connecting on Facebook, right? So on LinkedIn, it's a given for the most part. We'll talk about that in a minute, where sometimes it's not. But as a manager, I would never invite anyone to LinkedIn. To Facebook to be friends with them unless they invited me first. And even then, at times over the years, I've thought, wow, this is an interesting connection to make. Like, do I really want to bring that person into my personal life, where I may comment on politics, which is something I wouldn't do. I try to keep separate from work. But what do you think about that? And managers and employees being Facebook friends? Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I feel like it's okay. If it's okay with the manager and they feel comfortable, then it's their choice, I think, to accept that employee or not. So, I mean, if
Well,
they're
should a
not
manager
comfortable with it,
invite employees to be Facebook friends? I say no without exception. Never.
Yeah, I would say probably not. If you're friendly in if you both want to, that's fine. Sure, I'm not going to say like you can't. I wouldn't expect it to be like it's not. If I invited somebody, I'm not expecting them to accept it, and I won't be like offended even if I did and they turn it down. But also the flip side of that is I think is what you're posting on there. It really depends on the person. Like I'm not the kind of I don't post on social media. So even if I was friends with somebody, I guess if I was connected to like my manager who is here right now with me, but it wouldn't matter to me because I'm not posting anything anyway. So but if I do see some people that are on there that are posting a lot of stuff and about their personal life, and that gets into a whole other thing of like what level of detail should you put out there? And that's for everybody, not just what do you want reflected as your professional self? Because employers are going to see it. If you put it on the internet, it's out there.
yeah.
Okay,
So-
put that aside for the moment because that's its own topic.
Yeah.
I want to get into that with some detail.
So it's like, okay, let's just say, I mean, I am good friends with my manager. I had a relationship with her like before this. She's like my best friend when I first moved here to Florida. So obviously we connected on Facebook and everything, but even though she is like my best friend, I'm still very cautious and try to keep things professional because I don't want her to see me go like crazy on Facebook or Instagram. And I think, again, if you're both comfortable with that, then go ahead and like connect with each other. But
I'm not going to try and like
you-
get into people's relationships.
yeah, like let's just say you're not close to your manager or like you guys just aren't like that, then maybe it's not necessary to have to connect. But if you guys do have like a solid relationship, then and you're careful with what you post, then I think it's fine.
So, is it fair to say, are we all in agreement then that Facebook is more intimate in that regard than LinkedIn?
Yeah, I don't view LinkedIn as even. I mean, I know it is a social media, but I don't view it in the same lens as
Yeah. You don't see
social
your
media.
whole you don't see your whole family tree on LinkedIn. You don't see like when it's your mom's birthday or something, or if you're celebrating something. Like, I feel like Facebook is definitely intimate.
Okay, so Facebook personal, LinkedIn business. What about let's say Instagram? I
Instagram,
put that in
same
the
as
same
Facebook.
category as Facebook.
Yeah, I would put that same category as Facebook. I even put, I guess Twitter can go both ways. I know, not everybody even uses Twitter, but that's more of you can post your opinions and stuff, and it really depends. See, some people use Twitter as their professional thing, and they're just like sharing like interesting articles and stuff like that. Some people use it for just tweeting out every single thing that they think of.
Well, see, I'm trying to decide right now with my own Instagram account now that we've launched ZenGig to make it into a business account because I think it's not like I'm a big Instagram user otherwise. I really don't look at it, but I think okay, maybe I can take that account and isolate it and make it business, and then not really. I don't have many connections on there, and then just focus all the connections in that area. So I mean, we all have our own perspective on what's appropriate and what's not with these things. And for me, I'm like on this line where I have to make a decision. Like, do I want it to be a business account? In which case, I probably need to almost warn anyone in my personal life, like, hey, I'm going to be doing this, so it's okay if you don't want to be connected with me anymore. Because, like I said, it gets annoying to me on Facebook when I see in nonstop business stuff from people. Because that's not really why I'm on that site. Every once in a while, fine, I do that too. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Instagram.
So here's the power of Instagram and Facebook. You can create separate accounts if you want to make things business. Like, let's just say you want like a private Instagram account just for like family, or like even Facebook. and then you want like a business account, you could create a separate thing for that, and then just follow like business connections on that like Instagram page. So you don't have to just like, okay, I have to make a decision right now. I want to like make my account business, like, and just, you know, forget about the personal. I guess, I mean, that's your choice if you want to do that, but you don't have to give it up. You can always just create a whole different page, and you can make your personal private. So that
Okay, so this is you, the Gen Z talking, who has spam, grew up with spam accounts on Instagram. I know of that from my kids. Like, oh, that's someone's spam account. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell is that? I don't
we
even
grew
know
up
what that
with
was.
like Finsta, your fake Insta. People would just like put funny, embarrassing stuff, and like it'd be private, and only the inside peeps would know. They would follow that account, and you'd like accept it. So that's the power of Instagram. Like, you have a choice to make it private. You have a choice to create like a whole new page if you want to keep it business. Or again, let's just say look at influencers. I mean, technically it's personal and business all in one. Like, they're showing their everyday lives, and they're like business professional, but they're not posting anything embarrassing on there, obviously, because they have a reputation to maintain. So I say, like, let's just say you want to turn your Instagram account to become more like influential, then go for it. You can post both personal and business if you want to do that. That's my opinion.
Instagram's a weird one though, because it's like, unless you're doing something where people are, that's your business, like you're a model or an actor or something like that, like that's got a pic, like it's pictures. So like we're recruiting, we're staffing, we're talking about people's careers and stuff. Like, how do you put that into picture form? How do you put services? It's like the same thing as, say you've got like, a plumbing business. Are you gonna post pictures like, here's a bunch of pipes, that I put in today? Or, I mean, I guess there are people who do that, but it's not like, that's not an interesting thing that people are gonna be like, wow, that's super cool, as opposed to, somebody who's, on a beach in Bali or whatever.
You say that, but I swear I watched a video yesterday. I don't know if it was a reel where it just popped up, but it was a guy who, and I thought it was brilliant, is some sort of a lawn service where the guy will randomly pick yards that are way overgrown and then offer to cut them
Sure,
for
as I
free.
said
And he
that, I'm
filmed
like,
himself doing it, and this yard was awful. I mean, it looked like no one had lived there in years. And someone just happened to be sitting on the porch. He walked up. He asked, "Hey, can I do this?" And the person was skeptical. He's like, "Look, I'm doing it for free." And he did it in time lapse, and he recorded it, and it was fascinating. I was like, what a smart idea to promote your business, to show that you have this kind of awful before picture.
Mm-hmm.
Now you show yourself doing it, and that you're a good person in the process by making someone's yard better for free. I thought, wow, it was really smart. And
that is thinking.
I watched the whole thing.
As soon as I said that, I'm like, actually, I think about like, the power washing videos or something like that.
If you find your niche, it's not going to be boring. And the power of Instagram now, it's not just pictures, it's reels. So if you do go on someone's profile and you just see pictures, those are just thumbnails, because you'll click it and a reel will come up. So it's become more broader.
Yeah, right, there's a whole ton of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then that brings us to, well, Peter already mentioned Twitter. So Twitter is, surprisingly, when you look at the numbers, Twitter, even though Twitter is talked about so much, it doesn't have nearly the base that the other platforms have. I mean, it's a third of Instagram. It's not even close. So, and now TikTok is 1 billion plus users. So do we think that's going away? Or is it going
Twitter?
Now that Ashley, you've got all these viral videos for us out there.
Are you talking about TikTok?
TikTok
I
going
thought
away?
it was just, I don't know. I keep hearing back and forth that it's just going away on like government issued phones, and then everyone else can keep it. But then I hear that it's all just going away in general. So, I mean, I
think
know.
it's 50-50. It could.
Yeah,
Who
but I
knows?
mean, here's the beauty of the world we live in right now. If TikTok does go away, someone created it. Same thing will probably come up in like a couple months. I mean, look at Clapper. I found Clapper. It's basically like not so popular version of TikTok. It still has its little bugs that they're trying to fix and figure out. But I mean, if they create something else, there's always going to be something new. That's my opinion. So it does.
Yeah, Clapper seems like a TikTok clone.
Yeah, it's basically TikTok's like really weird, uglyish clone, because it's not there yet. But I mean, again, like MySpace, went away, and then what came after that? Facebook. So, and maybe something better than TikTok will come around.
wonder if we're gonna, and it almost seems like if we're gonna reach like a critical mass, like become more and more people are becoming aware of what we're talking about. Like, don't post everything on, social media, and like kind of rein it back in a little bit. People, are talking about their privacy and being tracked everywhere and stuff. So like, is that gonna go? Because it's a pendulum. It's swung so far where everything's on there. Especially Gen Z. I know a lot of millennials are becoming more aware of that, and like, hey, I don't want to necessarily. I saw some article the other day. It was about Gen Zs are like flip phones are becoming more popular again. That they're like literally getting a flip phone for going out, so that they're not all on their phones, and they're more living in the moment.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I saw a post yesterday that the restaurant will give 10%, take 10% off the bill for if they have a little place to stick your phones at the table. If you keep your phones in there during the meal, they'll take 10% off your bill. That's great.
That's a good idea,
there's things like that all over, and I'm seeing, so it's whatever comes next. I wonder, if it's going to take that into account.
Well, tell all the your generation is the one that started posting pictures of their food and their coffee, and like it's hard not to talk too much about this without naming names of people, but like I think of people on my social feeds who post the same thing over and over and over. Like, it's great that you worked out again today. Like, cool.
Well,
like, we get it, but I'd like to see something different.
Here's another thing. Like, influencers have become such a big thing, and I feel like everyone wants to be one. And influencers will post like healthy lifestyle, like all this stuff, my everyday life. And now everyone wants to show like, oh, this is my everyday life. Like, I'm perfect too. So it's everyone just trying to do the same exact thing, trying to be influencers. And I feel like influencers are kind of like a bad thing right now, because sometimes it's a little too perfect for reality. And I love the ones that show like, here's my everyday life, like completely raw, like not hiding anything, like imperfections, kids screaming in the back.
Like
what do you
we're
think
doing
about like
live? Like we're
Yeah.
doing right now.
Yeah.
So.
This is us being influencers. But like, what do you like? I see influencers even on LinkedIn now. It's like the professional influencers that that have a bunch of things in their title, and are like every buzzword under the sun, and they have all now I have an ebook that I'm putting out, and doing this and doing that, and it's almost like the professional landscape is so sanitized in this like weird way that it's hard to like kind of actually like have real conversations with people. I get messages on there. I'm like, I assume everyone's a bot. It's difficult to connect with people, even on LinkedIn. I feel like now, because it's getting overrun with a lot of people just posting generic things or reposting things without actually like putting any thought into them.
Oh man, LinkedIn, like the automated messages with invites where they're trying to sell you something right off the bat, and then I don't know. It must work, right? People are paying money. Companies.
It's a numbers game. Send out hundreds of thousands of people.
But it is the most like gimmicky, disingenuous way to establish a relationship with someone. And we get hit up all the time. I'm not sure if you guys do, but I get messages daily about people offering to help improve our marketing. And I look at their site and I'm like, well, okay. If I'm inclined, if I'm in the mood, I'll be like, okay, so what would you improve? And I never hear from them again. Like, don't initiate. I don't know. That's a different topic, but I just think you mentioned bots, and I think of all the automation, and it's so easy to do these days, but it's a weird way to establish a relationship, in my opinion. I don't like it at all.
Well, back to how you present yourself on there. I think that if you I notice when I see somebody who, like, I can tell they wrote out an actual post and they're not trying to be gimmicky or whatever. They're just like, here's my honest thoughts on it, and I'm not trying to like appeal to the lowest common denominator or whatever. And it's because it's so few and far between. It's like sandwiched in between like meme video, sob story about like work, whatever. And I'm like, I just glaze right over that stuff. So there's a handful of people that I'm connected to that are on LinkedIn that'll consistently post like things. I'll actually look at it, and I don't go on there and comment or like on anything with any sort of frequency like a lot of people do, but I'll actually stop and I'll like that or like share my thoughts on it. And because it's becoming so novel. And I think that's a good way to portray yourself on there. Is people notice when you put some actual thought into it instead of just trying to parrot whatever other influencers are doing.
We love our meme videos, though.
That's too.
At least ours are work related.
There you go. We keep consistent.
At least, yeah, as long as they're relevant and not just like.
Okay,
Yeah.
so two things I want to explore a little bit before we go too far and have time to do it. So, where's the line with what you should be able to post on your personal account? So I think we've already established that LinkedIn's business. We all agree on that. The other sites can be a blend. Facebook, generally personal. But what is okay, do you guys think? And this is more of a generational work question. But for employers to expect their employees could post on their social platforms and be acceptable. So how extreme can employees get in terms of political views or anything that wouldn't be appropriate at work? Should it matter when you're not at work? Right. So what's your take on that? So Ashley, should you be able to post anything on Facebook and have your employer care? Or would you say it's none of their business?
I think if you're posting like stuff like you're going out and it's really bad, then keep your page like private so that
So where's the line though? Where does the bad versus no big deal?
I guess no big deal for me is like if you're posting your opinion, I guess, because I mean everyone has their different opinions of politics and like world life matters. Like that's always going to be different, and everyone just has to accept the difference. And if you don't see eye to eye on it, then I mean you don't have to say anything. Like don't start an argument, just leave it alone. Like I think that's fine. That's a fine line. But like, let's just say if you're posting stuff like you're drinking and going out and you're barely wearing clothes and, your manager is going to see you're all sloppy and unprofessional. And I think that's like really, really bad, like embarrassing. So I think that's my 2 lines.
I think
So you think an employer should be? I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So your advice, I think, is more aimed at, or if I call it advice, is more aimed at the individual saying, hey, be conscious of that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say the employee, is doing all of those things you just warned against. Should the employer have an opinion on it, and then should they be able to act on that opinion?
I mean, that's tough to say. Like, I feel like, yes, they should. I mean, we'll take me, for example. I am, like, the face of Zengeeks TikTok. If I start posting stuff on my, I have to be cautious because of that. Because personally, if I post crazy stuff on my TikTok, that's going to affect the Zengig brand because I'm the face of that. So I think if you're in a position like me, yes, you have to be cautious. And yes, your boss can say something because people are going to be like, hey, that's the girl that's on Zengig's TikTok page. You know what I mean?
Okay, so let's not make it about you, because you are unique in that regard, right? Most employees aren't public facing like you are, but let's use Peter. We'll pick on Peter as the example because we already know no one likes millennials anyway. So let's say Peter goes out and goes to an extreme political rally, right, of one side or the other, and his employer has political views that is not consistent with, right? And let's say he's doing something even that's generally considered edgy by any definition. That's the case that I wonder about, because it happens all day, and should the employers?
I mean, again, I don't think they could say anything because that's going into their personal world again, like their personal political stance and all that kind of stuff. I think they're not really allowed.
I think a company can act on someone's thing. It will speak specifically to the United States because that's freedom of speech and all that. Your private life and what you want to post in there. That does not equal freedom from consequences. So you post whatever you want, the consequences, you deal with them. Like, so if you do that, knowing that if I did that, knowing that I work at a company that has the opposite views, knowing that there's a possibility that someone could find out on there, I'm accepting if I don't want that to deal with that, don't post it on social media.
But shouldn't the company be okay with everyone having different political views?
Well,
I'm assuming that this is an extreme scenario where it violates the company's code of ethics or what have you. And if it's a private company, then you can do whatever you want.
Here's an example, right? Someone who's it appears to be using illicit drugs. Let's say that, right? And then they post it. Let's make it something that, and I'm not talking. I'm saying that drugs that are clearly illegal. How about that scenario? And if the employer sees it, if someone brings the employer's attention, do they ignore it? They disregard it completely? Do they act on it?
I think they have a right to act on it because these people made it public.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you could argue that you shouldn't have done it in the first place if you didn't want to deal with the consequences.
Especially if the company does drug testing and everything, and these people are kind of violating that. I think they have a right to get involved.
So it's a weird line, right? Though, because now we're saying, you could argue that this is my personal life and I'm on my personal time. While true, and the drugs is probably a bad example for that reason, right? If you have a drug testing policy and it appears that was being violated, that's a different scenario. So we probably should have thought through it to come up with the more appropriate example. But there's lots of examples that could be used for this, and where the employer could say, okay, yeah, it's your personal time, but this persists, right? Like the video's still up, and so you are a representative of the company at some level. That's a tough one.
So here's an example that's a little bit more ambiguous. So say you work for a really a pet friendly company or something, like an animal friendly, company, like Chewy or PetSmart or something like that. Something that's really focused on animals and, loving animals and that whole thing. Say you are really into hunting and big game hunting, and you post videos of you killing animals. It's not illegal.
Perfect example.
So, are they, it's directly in conflict maybe with their brand, and even more so the people who, their customers. Are they within their rights to say, not illegal, not a good look for us as a company, so sorry, you got to go?
I think yes. You phrase it the perfect way, right? It conflicts with their brand and who that's a perfect way to say it. Ashley, what do you think?
I think if it conflicts with the brand, then yeah, they gotta go. Perfect scenario. And you can even talk to your, I feel like HR knows how to answer this best too, because they probably had to deal with questions like that. So obviously talk to your HR, see what they think, and also tell the person up front, before hiring them, about your brand. So if you're PetSmart and you're interviewing this person and they like hunting and all that stuff, that's obviously not going to go well with your brand. So don't hire that person. But if you already hired them and you didn't know that they were into hunting, then I think it's okay to let them go, because that does violate
You guys surprised me with that. Peter, is same for you? I mean, if you go to work for PetSmart, you obviously know what their brand is.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important. Companies should have a social media guidelines. And I think in this day and age, it's popular enough. It's not like someone's just discovering the power of social media. That most companies are going to say, hey, there's a couple 10 Commandments style. These are the things, don't cross them. Most of the time you're fine, but don't go extreme, or else when it becomes an issue for their business, they're going to take action. And I think
it's common sense too. Come on, if your face is going to be all over the company, or if you're working for a certain brand and you have to keep up a certain reputation, then just be careful what you post, because honestly, you might be risking your position. So
yeah, and I think that goes for everything though. Just keep in mind who you portray yourself as online, because not even maybe it doesn't affect this company, but it could affect you at the next company 5 years from now. That's it. When you put something out there, it's out there forever, even if your page is quote unquote private or whatnot. So when in doubt, just don't post it.
that's really an important point to make in terms of just general career advice. Just know that if you post something, employers look, recruiters look, they all look. And whether you think they should, whether they'll ever admit to it, they do, and that you will be judged, and you could potentially miss out on great opportunities as a result of what you post, even though you don't. Your opinion on whether it should matter is, as an individual, is not as relevant as the fact that it does matter to prospective employers. I'm a little surprised with both of you guys, though. I thought one of you would take a different stance on that and say, no, it's my personal time, doesn't matter. It's not.
I mean, I do agree. You can do whatever you want,
Yeah.
but like I said, if just because you do what you want doesn't mean other people can't also do what they want.
Yeah, it's not to say like you still can't, have your personal stuff. Just be careful with your what you're doing.
Yeah, I look, I agree with you.
My entire generation's grown like that's the millennial. Like we've been grown up as we grew up. Our parents be careful what you post online. Be careful. Like I heard that my entire career and even high school and because it was all just becoming popular, which is hilarious to see the turnaround of now my parents' generation who just post everything on social media.
Yeah.
They need to listen to their own warnings a little bit more. I had to deal here with stranger danger and everything. They're like, all right, let me just post my whole life online so every stranger can see it.
I mean, obviously, there's going to be the bunch of people that are careful, and then the other bunch that just don't care. And if the other bunch that just doesn't care, I mean, that's their problem.
If you don't care, then you got to not care.
If they can't be jeopardized by it, then whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's something to be said for not caring, but there's consequences, and as long as everyone knows that, proceed accordingly. Okay, so last topic for on this is, what do you think? Where is the line between what an employer can ask of an employee to use their social media account? So this came up on our last recording, which is why we're talking about this today. I told a story of a former employee who refused to change their LinkedIn profile to reflect their new job, and we were perplexed by that. I never had encountered it prior to that, and never encountered it since. But it does happen. We were talking about how people have multiple jobs now with the virtual workforce and how technology's allowed for that. So what is okay? Let's say I'm running a promotion. We're in the recruiting business. We'll just use our own example. And there are times where we have urgent positions to fill, on the staffing side of our business. And so would it be appropriate for us to say, hey, everyone, go post this on your Facebook account. Go post this on Instagram. Do you think that employer should? Yeah,
I think you can request it. I don't think you can hold them accountable to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in that scenario, I would say, okay, a good employee who's fine with it is going to try and do whatever they can to fill their workload. Somebody who maybe isn't, maybe they're not going to put as much effort in, and maybe that's this career, and this goes for recruiting, but you could even say it goes for sales, anything that requires networking like that. That's maybe not the career for you if you're not wanting to delve into that, because particularly sales, networking, your life is intertwined with your job. You find sales opportunities, clients or whatever in your personal life. It's not something that you can just say, all right, I'm done working, I'm not going to talk. Say you're on Thanksgiving and you come across, it's a holiday weekend and you talk to somebody, you're not going to bring up, they're like, I wish I could find someone who could help me get, great, talent, and I don't know how to hire people. Or you're not going to give them advice on that. That's the same kind of thing as posting on social media, I think. It's you can make the decision.
You're willing to do it, right? I mean, and that's one thing. I'm talking about, and take it a step beyond even asking, hey, if you're willing to do this, this would be great. Mm-hmm. I expect you to do this. Now, how do you feel about it?
I would say you can't expect someone.
Yeah, especially if it's your personal account where you're just posting family stuff. Then
okay, so we all agree. Okay, so now let's make it. And I don't even know how often that would even happen, right? I'm sure it does. But now let's turn to LinkedIn. and you say, hey, everyone is required to do XYZ. Is it okay there?
If it's directly related to the job, it's where we being, in the job industry, it's a big part for us. So yes, I would say HR, all that. Yes. Maybe if you're doing a job that's not really public facing, it's not really client facing, it's not as important. I can't really think of a scenario where that would be something that, they can force you to do it. But if particularly HR, recruiting, anything related to like people finding jobs, yeah, I think that's a part of your job there. So it's your personal page. You could even go as far as to say, okay, I'll make a profile. Then you're kind of getting into like having two different profiles. So I guess that's a gray area.
But I mean, then again, there are some employees that they like having the freedom, especially since technically LinkedIn is still like your social media platform.
You can't force people, but
they might not like being like, okay, told like you're forced to post this on your own social media platform. It's not the company's, it's your own. So I feel like asking them to is another thing, but forcing them, I don't think that's.
I feel like you can't force them, but it's
going to be too happy.
You're going to get limited. Like if you, as the candidate, I'm starting a company and I can say no, just like with the social media. There's going to be consequences, and I'm probably not showing that I'm that interested in growth, and I'm not that interested to do whatever I need to do to, get people hired or whatever. And so I think that.
So there's a sentiment that exists. And I know you know this, Peter, because you're a big Reddit user. There's an anti-work subreddit. You've been on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've probably talked about this. Ashley, have you seen it?
Yeah.
So there's this sentiment that where it's really like it's real that employees to some significant degree will say, if it's not explicitly in my job description, I'm not doing it. And to that, I say, because I put this all under the same category, right? Like if it has to, you use the word force. If an employer is having to force someone to do something like that's just a really unhealthy situation, don't you think? Like, or if someone's pulling out it's the way I've always sold. You mentioned me as a professional salesperson. I've always said that at the point you have to pull out a contract, you have bigger problems. Like if you're referring to the T's and C's in a contract, you're beyond the relationship at that point. And I would make the same comparison to a job. Like if you're having to quote your job description and tell me it's not in it, like, oh man, like really? Like how do we're probably not in a great situation otherwise.
And we're talking, well, in that scenario, if you're being, say, you assume taken advantage of, and like, oh, well, I'm being asked to do all this stuff outside my job description, that's different. And I would say then you need to probably look for a different job if they're not respecting you, because it needs to be mutual. If you're at the beginning of your job and in a recruiting job, in an HR job, that might be on your job description, and maybe that's something the employer needs to consider. Like the right candidate for this needs to be willing to do that. And then when they're not, you're like, all right, well, this is in part of your job description, part of the thing we expect from you. So that's why it's not going to work out. So maybe just being more explicit, I guess, on the front end would be a partial solution for that.
I think so too. All right, Ashley is muted her mic, which means she's is it the dogs, Ashley?
Dogs barking, yeah.
Dog.
She hears
So,
people outside.
I think that's a sign that we've reached the end for today anyway. So any last word on this? I think we have to find another.
We need to be more argumentative on this, but this is an area like social media. I feel like it's pretty black and white. I can't really even think of a scenario where you say, nope, leave me alone. Do what you want, but just know that the company can do what they want.
I didn't anticipate that, but all right. Next time, next episode we're talking South Park.
Okay.
We're talking South Park and Cartman getting a job, and I don't know for sure, but I don't think that's going to make the millennial generation look great. I think that was sort of aimed at you guys, Peter.
Even though they never look great.
Yeah, I'll make sure that I've got it on my TV queue now. So.
All right. All right. Well, thanks for listening. And this is a new series for us. So if you have topics you'd like us to discuss, hopefully argue about, have different perspectives on, hit us up. We're posting this on LinkedIn and YouTube, and I think even Facebook. We're crossing that business line over to Facebook, but not on our personal accounts on our 10 gig channel. So we're trying to keep that in check. But all right, you guys, this was fun. Thank you.
All right. See you
All right.
guys.
Bye, guys.